tucked away here in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina, sits the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame and Museum. We are here. I figured I'd stop by, one, because I happen to be in the neighborhood, but two, I'm here in North Carolina exploring NASCAR's roots, its Moonshine history. I'd never heard of this place until I did some Googling, but I'm sure we'll find some pretty sweet history, some pretty awesome race cars deep inside. Let's go check it out.
It's hard to overstate the cultural impact stock car racing has made across the state of North Carolina. What is now the largest racing series in America evolved from these windy, mountainous roads. So much of North Carolina racing history is still alive today. Let's explore the Moonshine and Motorsports Trail.
And we are in. Holy Toledo, didn't look like that big of a building from the outside. Okay.
All you have to do is take 2 steps and already we are confronted by history. This is a 1940 Ford Deluxe Coupe.
That is pre-NASCAR. That is Moonshine runners souping up their race cars, holding maybe some of their own exhibition races. Fans would start showing up to watch. Many of NASCAR's earliest champions would have been running Moonshine in cars probably not too dissimilar to this. We got to keep moving, but honestly, just glancing around here, I feel like there's enough in this room to keep you occupied for days if you're not careful. Oh, check this out. This is right up my alley. Look at this tiny model of North Wilkesboro Speedway, complete with the old Winston Cup signage. Behind me is a fabulous Hudson Hornet that apparently was driven by Herb Thomas.
Apparently this is a 1954 model. Herb Thomas was the first 2-time NASCAR Grand National Series champion. He won in 1951 and 1953, driving fabulous Hudson Hornets. Of course, Pixar fans will recognize the Hudson Hornet from the movie Cars, Doc Hudson's character. And a fun fact, in those movies, Doc Hudson's car number is 51 because that was the first year of the Hudson Hornet. The Purple Hog. This is Curtis Turner's car. Look at this. Oh, look at the graphics on the side. That looks great. I love the massive steer. I just love the interiors of all these old cars. Just unrecognizable compared to today's NASCAR standards. There is just so much crammed into this room. So many details, old photographs, die-cast cars, uniforms, trophies. There's so much to see, including Ken Schrader's IROC car. The sign reminded me, I forget that IROC goes all the way back to 1973. Of course, it ended in the mid-2000s. But, you know, some would say the SRX, the Superstar Racing Experience, is like the new modern-day equivalent, a continuation. I am blown away. There's just so much stuff. You know how Cup cars used to have all those contingency decals on the door on the side? This feels like a old-school contingency panel, but in museum form. There's just so many decals, so many things to see. It's overwhelming. Whoa, check it out. It's a scale model of Rusty Wallace's, what's it say, 1994 Ford Thunderbird that would have been used in wind tunnels for aerodynamic testing. This is only 40% the size of a full-size car. It's still pretty big, but I think that's hilarious how they use miniatures to still test real-world aerodynamic stuff. I know testing and whatnot in NASCAR has been lessened greatly in the modern day, but I wonder, do they still use like miniatures kind of like this or not? That's a question I'd have. Somebody in the comments who knows, let me know. Back to the full-size race cars. This was driven by Rusty Wallace. Here in the back of the museum, they have plaques for every North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame inductee. Petty, Allison, Tim Flocken Jr., Johnson, Bill France, Ned Jarrett. Wow. Yeah, it's kind of the who's who's. Ralph Moody, Cale Yarborough, of course, the Intimidator. He doesn't look so intimidating right there. He looks kind of friendly. He looks very warm and welcoming, honestly. AJ Foyt, Benny Parsons, Buddy Baker, who's this, Darrell Waltrip. As you can see, there's still some room to grow, room to expand. Also in front of them, look at all these old engine blocks.
So many cars to see, and I know I'm focusing on NASCAR stuff, but this is the North Carolina Auto Racing. It's not the NASCAR Hall of Fame. There are other cars from other motorsports, other racing series and disciplines on display here. Apparently this car was raced by Tony Eury Sr. Open wheel racing is also represented. This car was driven by Bobby Rahal. Reminds me of when I visited the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum a couple years ago, a couple summers ago. I encourage you to go check that video out. I'll put it up here somewhere. They got a Legends car on display right here that apparently competed in the 1997 Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. I met a driver and a team owner, someone who runs that event every year, who lives out in Colorado Springs. So that's pretty crazy. Look at these images. They put a big wing on the back too. I wonder where the wing is now.
I must admit, I know a lot more about the NASCAR pieces in this museum, but that doesn't mean these other cars aren't incredible.
Highly encourage you the next time you're in the Charlotte area to come check this place out. Dave, as in Dave Marcus. I love the blue. Beautiful colors. Would look good on a modern racetrack, I think, too. All right, we're starting to get a little more new school on this side of the room. Not too new school just yet. This car was driven by Tim Richmond, one of NASCAR's first superstars, some would say. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful Pontiac. Look at this. Oh wow, we looked at those smaller models used for aerodynamic research and development. This was an actual test car used by Ford in the 90s.
Ford was looking to replace the Thunderbird. They ultimately ended up going with a version of the Ford Taurus.
But this was one of their original test cars, and right next to them, 1960 NASCAR Grand National Champion Rex White. Here we go, handsome Harry Gant, the Skull Bandit. Number 33, check it out. One of the most iconic paint schemes, one of the most iconic race cars of the 90s. Oh man, they have a Darrell Waltrip car from his final season, the year 2000. Darrell Waltrip Victory Tour. Very interesting looking paint scheme. Of course, DW went straight from the racetrack into the TV booth in 2001 with Fox. DW won his last cup race in 1992, but he kept going. There's something charming about this paint scheme, and right next to it, you have King Richard and his son Kyle Petty, the 43 and the 42, a couple of Pontiacs parked side by side. This 42 car is from 1989, which was Petty's first year with Sabco. Love the pink and blue. I know we can't get a great view of the side here. Really great cars. I guess we can look at the nose, the bumper. Didn't Larson run a throwback scheme at Darlington a few years ago to this? I remember thinking it was similar. It was similar. It had the pink and blue, and I really liked it. This Petty car, hold on. There's not a sign in front of it. I don't know what year this would be from. I'm not a Richard Petty expert. I guess I'll have to do some Googling to find out exactly what year this car is from. Richard Petty fans in the comments are already screaming at me, oh, it's obvious. It's got to be late 80s, early 90s, but any Richard Petty experts, let me know down in the comment section below. I like that it's got a old glass bottle of Pepsi on the roof. I don't know if you can see that. It's got Richard Petty's face on it. 7-time champion. Now this one brings back some memories for me.
I think this is a 2006 car, but it reminds me of Tony Stewart's 2005 scheme. That's when I went and saw my first race, Texas Motor Speedway.
The Chase race at Texas Motor Speedway in November. Carl Edwards won that race, but that was Tony Stewart's second championship season. He was on his way to winning the Nextel Cup Championship that year. At this point, I was officially hooked as a, how old was I? 7-year-old kid. That race I went to at Texas Motor Speedway with my dad was actually for my 8th birthday. So this car, I'm pretty sure he led laps in that race. I know he was up front. I know my boy Kenseth led some laps. Edwards obviously won the race, but Tony Stewart, championship season, he was in the mix.
It's awesome to see these bright orange colors once again. Let me know. I think this is an 06 car. Let me know in the comments.
We're getting close to the end. This right here was driven by Ryan Newman. Is this something he drove as a kid? Let me read the sign. Didn't say exactly what year this quarter midget's from, but Newman started racing them when he was young. He was in the 80s. I like how he signed it. Signed it right there. That's cool. So much awesome stuff in here. Another Darrell Waltrip car. This was a car he owned. DW's career as a driver-owner was not quite as successful as when he was just a driver, but still, he did win a few races in his own equipment, I believe. Back in the early 90s with Jeff Hammond as his crew chief, so this is kind of an iconic paint scheme. I love that he drove the number 17. Right next to him, though, this is another Ryan Newman piece. Ryan Newman found almost immediate success when Team Penske picked him up. But look at the number 27 on the side. Don't see that anymore. I love the Alltel colors. The Alltel Ryan Newman colors and this fire suit right here. Very iconic. Really cool piece of history. Another Penske car right next to us here. Iconic black and yellow Miller light paint scheme. Miller genuine draft paint scheme. Another Rusty Wallace car. Take a good look inside. Compared to those Herb Thomas and Curtis Turner's cars we looked at earlier, things had changed quite a bit after a few decades. It's truly unbelievable how much they have packed into this one, fairly large room, but not huge. Again, it didn't look that big from the outside, but they have so many historic race cars from NASCAR. They've got all this drag racing stuff set up here behind me that, unfortunately, I don't know hardly anything about. But it sure looks impressive and incredible. Is that Albert Einstein? Really cool stuff here at the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame. This wasn't originally part of my plan, but I had the afternoon free, wanted to stop by and check this out, and boy, am I glad I did. Again, there is so much in here. If you wanted to study each and every photo on the wall, every detail of these cars, of the replicas, the die casts, the displays they have all around this room, you could be here for days. I am not kidding. Oh, look at this look from Alan Kulwicki, the Terminator. I have never seen die-cast cars put on display like this, but I kind of like it. All right, well, I think that's about gonna do it. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure to the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame and Museum. I'm gonna go check out the gift shop because they had some pretty sweet stuff packed in there. Back at the hotel, I did pick up a inaugural 1997 Texas Motor Speedway race program, which was pretty cool. Wanted to have that in the collection. But thank you for coming on this journey with me to the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame. Not an official stop on the Moonshine and Motorsports Trail, but a worthwhile one nonetheless. Something fun for race fans to do if you're ever in the Charlotte or Mooresville, North Carolina area. Thanks for tuning into this video, y'all. I'm gonna get some sleep because we've got some more stops to make in the coming days. I will see you then. Take it easy, y'all.